everyone. I start?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our webinar for today. Greetings to all of you. We are happy to have you with us today, 21st Century Training Needs team, with its leader, Mr. Fawzi Al-Halawati, and the main members in it, Mrs. Mariana Nabil, Mrs. Iman Nasr, Mrs. Nisreen Al-Habash, Mrs. Wissam Ibrahim, Mrs. Najat Abu Sirwal, and myself. I hope you all doing fine, and inshallah you will enjoy our meeting for today. In collaboration with Bilqas English Supervision by our great organizer and arranger, Mrs. Fatma Ibrahim, who would like to say something. Ms. Fatma, would you like to say something for the present attendance?
Yes.
You're
Hi, dear
welcome.
colleagues all over the globe. Welcome you all to our international professional webinar. I am very happy and appreciate your kind attendance today. Our topic today is related to a very important issue, climate action in language education, and we arouse a very important branch in this, nurturing creativity in our today's classroom. Yes, Ms. Mona.
Thank you, Ms. Fatma. Thank you so much for your participation with us and for the great opportunity that you gave our team. Thank you. Okay, now we will move to our topic. It's nurturing creativity in today's classroom by Mrs. Patricia Arbona from Argentina. Little synopsis about her great works. She's a teacher based in Argentina, specialized in phonetics and phonology, holds a postgraduate English language degree from Buenos Aires University, has vast experience in teaching English as a foreign language, as a teacher, trainer, and drama teacher. She has contributed articles to academic journals and has delivered presentations and workshops in English and Spanish in Argentina and many countries in America, Europe, and Asia. Also, Ms. Patricia is the founder and the head of LudoDrama, which is a group of teachers whose main concern is to enhance the art of teaching. As an independent researcher, she is exploring active learning and paralinguistics and has done experimental work in Argentina, the USA, and Europe. Our webinar content today will be barriers to creativity, habits of creative teachers, how to foster creativity, and activities to increase creativity. And of course, at the end of the session, when Ms. Patricia finishes her presentation, we will have time to receive your questions if you need any inquiries about anything from the presentation. Gladly, Ms. Patricia, it's your time now to share the screen, and the time is yours.
All right. Well, thank you very much. So let's start sharing. Thank you.
مس فاطمة لو عايزة تشيري وتقدميه اتفضلي.
Okay, can you see my first slide? Yes?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes.
Oh, all right. Okay. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, teachers of the world. It's a great pleasure for me to be with you all. And before starting, I would like to say a big thank you to Fatma Ibrahim and all the members of her group who has invited me to deliver this presentation today. Well, the topic is nurturing creativity in today's classroom. But before starting, it is important to consider the process of transformation that is taking place around the world. We all know that the traditional method of teaching is is no longer responding to 21st century education? Well, the reason is simple. It is outdated. This means that it pays more attention to rote learning and practical application of what the students learn is not taken into account. This means that the spark of creativity, smart thinking, and innovation are disregarded. Today, active methodologies have been implementing in different schools around the world with great success. They promote learning by doing. This new approach to teaching is student-centered, and the main concern is students' active participation. Of course, these type of active methodologies cultivate creativity. And we shouldn't forget that creativity is one of the 5 basic competencies that students should develop in 21st century education. When we implement creativity in the classroom, we use both the brain and the heart in equal measure. Why? Because creativity generates positive emotions. This means that the students get inspired and they are encouraged to unleash their inner potential. Remember that creativity is not just about inventing, generating new ideas. It is about the type of person you become when you are creative. And this is one of our main aims in the classroom. We should prepare our students to be creative and to think critically and creatively inside and outside the classroom. Well, there is a close connection between creativity and environmental education. Environmental education is crucial in schools today, and it should be a core curricular component in 21st century education. The reason is simple. Environmental education promotes creativity and the development of critical skills. It invites students to get directly engaged with their communities, and it also helps students understand why the environment is important and provides them with the necessary tools they need to protect the earth and live eco-friendly and sustainable lives. The earlier the students become involved in environmental issues, the earlier they will start taking action. There is also, climate change is one of the biggest challenges our generation has ever faced. For this reason, caring about our common home is an urgent imperative. And we teachers, as agents of change, should encourage environmental education, skills, knowledge, and all the students need in order to become protectors of the earth. When the students are involved in climate issues, for example, and they are directly affected by them in their own communities, creativity is in full swing. Why? Because it becomes a superpower that allows students to turn ideas into actions and aspirations into reality. Isn't it great? So this is the power of creativity and the reason why we should introduce it into our classrooms. Now, 21st century teachers should redirect their teaching aims and redesign their classrooms. Each classroom should be a feeding ground, which provides students with the necessary tools to reduce or to mitigate climate impact, and save the Earth. In this presentation, I will share with you practical skills that will help you nurture creativity in the classroom and transform the way students learn by encouraging them to think deeper, search wider, and explore different perspectives. These abilities will allow them to spot problems more easily, discuss ideas, and work together on solutions. Now, it is important to see some trigger questions. Can you mention words associated with creativity? Imagine that you are in a meeting, as we are now, and you are discussing what you do in your classroom. When we think, without being creative, suppose that you are not a creative teacher and you are trying to find information about it, so you want to know. So, what are the first words that come to your mind when we mention the word creativity? Well, creativity is related to imagination, is related to the arts, it is related to inspiration, emotions. So there are lots of words that are connected with the idea of creativity. But now the second question is, do you consider yourself a creative teacher? So this is food for thought, because when you ask this question to yourself, well, you start thinking about your own teaching practices. So this is something that you may reflect on after this session. And what is the difference between teaching creatively and teaching creativity? Teaching creatively is teacher-centered. This means that the teacher enhances her teaching with strategies, resources, and way of teaching in order to improve and make students enjoy the type of learning that is present in the classroom when the teacher teaches creatively. Now, teaching creativity is different. Why? Because the teacher selects material, selects strategies that will help students become creative. So teaching creativity is student-centered. Of course, that when creativity is present in the classroom, both teachings are used. Now, the question is, why is creativity a vital component in the classroom? First of all, creativity invites you to step outside the comfort zone. The comfort zone is a great enemy of creativity. When you are in your comfort zone, there is no development, no improvement, there is no change. There is routine, there is monotony. When you move beyond it, you enter the world of growth, the world of learning, and you start taking risks. This means that you become a mold breaker. When you break the mold, this means that you start teaching in ways that are completely different from the ones that are normally used in a conventional classroom. When you are a mold breaker, you keep monotony away, because monotony does not allow students learn effectively. When there is monotony in the classroom, students get demotivated. That's why motivation is an important component in the classroom. Remember that creativity is the heart of intrinsically motivated classrooms. When students are motivated, they feel the satisfaction, the interest, and the challenge of the activities they are doing. and they do not need any external reward. For example, we often say, we often say to our students, if you finish this activity now in the classroom, you won't have homework. So students finish the activity not because they are interested in it. They do it because they know that they will free at home because they won't have any assignments. So this is not natural participation. They are pressed by the reward. But when students are intrinsically motivated, this means that they are interested in what they are doing. For this reason, focus and attention are important in a creative classroom. You know that normally they are focused and attentive. And the span of attention lasts for a few minutes. We shouldn't forget that, especially with children. That's why in a monotonous class, attention vanishes very quickly. That's why we need to keep our students active. We need to help our students create all the time so that they are busy. We need busy students working and improving their process of learning. This is our main aim in the classroom. Well, creativity promotes a healthy brain. Why? Well, the brain, when we are being creative in the classroom, the whole brain is working very hard. Multiple intelligences promotes creative thought. Howard Gardner once said, "It is not just how smart you are, but how you are smart." That's completely different. Each human being has the 8 intelligences proposed by Gardner, but they are combined differently in each human being. So our mission as teachers is to help our students discover those intelligences and use them in their process of learning. Well, students have a creative mindset when creativity is flowing in the classroom. When the students have a creative mindset, they are original, they are inquisitive, they are perceptive, they have the ability of connecting different ideas together. Well, in the classroom, there is freedom of expression. Why? Because the students are able to express their ideas and thoughts because they are active participants. They do not like to remain seated at their desks listening to their teachers. Remember that students needs movement, needs action. And remember that learning is associated with movement. When there is movement, there is learning. When students acquire learning, is difficult to be checked because we don't know if the students are really paying attention to what we are saying. That's why movement, action are crucial in the classroom because they become motivated and we can see if they are really learning. Well, when we use creativity, learning becomes deep and it becomes part of the real world. It becomes deeper because the students are directly involved in the process of learning. And the learning is connected with real life situations because the students apply what they learn with what they live. That is to say that this type of learning is associated with concrete experiences. So this type of learning is experiential. The students have hands-on learning. Well, creativity is a transversal skill. This means that it can be used everywhere. And a transversal skill is not specifically related to any particular job, task, area of discipline, because it can be applied in different situations. So this means that when we teach creativity in the classroom, the students will use it now and in the future. This means that it will be an instrument that will be used permanently. It will become part of their lives. Remember that we are creative in our daily lives permanently. We are thinking, we are trying to solve problems, and sometimes logic is not enough. We need to use our imagination to solve them. Well, it helps the development of physical and emotional skills. Little children at the early stages, they use different materials so that they learn by touching, for example, and in this way they develop motor and coordination skills. They also develop emotional skills, and this is at every level, because, as I said before, creativity generates positive emotions. And besides, when creativity is in the classroom, it reduces the anxiety that may be present when students are afraid of participating because they think that they will commit mistakes. So when creativity is present, there are positive emotions, so they become more confident and they want to participate actively. Well, it also boosts social development. Remember that when we use creativity, the students work together and they develop intrapersonal and interpersonal skills. They are needed because in this way, students improve their relationship with their peers. And of course, creativity is a prerequisite for innovation. Remember that I have said that it is one of the 5 basic competencies that students should develop in 21st century education. Any job today requires creativity. So it is our responsibility to start implementing it in our classrooms. Well, when we use creativity in the classroom, so we are innovating, we are introducing new ideas, different ideas. And when the students have to solve a problem, we encourage them to use their imagination. So they are using their divergent thinking, but at the same time, they used to use their logic. So that type of thinking is convergent. But when we solve a problem, we have to encourage them to use both types of thinking. So they use their lateral thinking. This means thinking outside the box, and creativity is found outside the box. As simple as that. Well, it is important to consider the barriers to creativity. Because there are many killers, many creativity killers. And if you know them before starting dealing with creativity in the classroom, it will give you the opportunity to be more confident. First of all, one of the biggest barriers is the traditional method of teaching and learning. You know that there are many students that are still having a passive participation in the classroom, and in this type of classroom, creativity does not have the opportunity to be active, to flow naturally. When we start using creativity, we need to adopt these active methodologies that are already implemented in different parts of the world. And of course, as I said before, creativity is one of the most important components of that type of learning, because creativity makes students active, makes students become active participants. This means that they are central in the process of learning. Well, creativity, unfortunately, is not a curricular goal. When creative competence becomes part of the school curriculum, we are preparing our students for an unpredictable world. That's why creativity is so necessary today. There is a lot of uncertainty. We are having lots of problems around the world. So if we train our students to start solving problems now, they will be able to have the necessary tools to go on solving problems in the future. Well, the classroom environment is another obstacle. You know that creativity is a supreme art, and the students need to be prepared for that. I cannot say, good morning, sit down, open your books. No, I need a pleasant atmosphere in which the students feel comfortable. This atmosphere should be welcoming. This atmosphere should be unthreatening, an atmosphere which really invites them to learn. Well, student engagement is crucial. A student should be highly motivated. Normally, when creativity is present, they are really motivated. But what happens in the classroom? How do we get this engagement that is so important in the classroom? It starts with our attention. And what happens in the classroom? Normally, we ask for attention, and attention is not asked. It is gained. Remember that students do not learn when we want to teach them. They learn when they are intrinsically motivated. That's completely different. So when the students pay attention, they become intrinsically motivated because they are interested in what is happening in the classroom. And motivation opens the door to curiosity. And curiosity inspires students to start making questions. And questions are the source of new knowledge. As simple as that. Another obstacle is not thinking proactively. Teachers and students should think proactively. A proactive student is inquisitive, is fond of learning, is steps outside the comfort zone, of course, is always on the move, and he enjoys learning. And serendipity takes place when he's searching new information. For example, he's trying to find some information on the net, and when he opens one document, he discovers that there are related topics. He clicks on one of them and he discovers that that information is important as the one he's looking for. So it becomes there. So serendipity is discovering something valuable or interesting just by chance. This normally happens in our daily lives too. Well, a great obstacle and a great enemy is predictable classes. Predictable classes should be avoided at all costs. Why? Because students really detect when they are having predictable classes. Why? Because lesson plans are always the same activities, the same type of tests, the same exercises included in the tests. So the students get bored. They do not like learning in this way. And you know that they usually complain about this. So in a predictable class, creativity has no space. We need a class in which creativity is flowing, when the students are able to find something that is different in every single class. Otherwise, monotony and boredom become part of the class. And this should be avoided because we don't like having or teaching boring classes, and students do not like learning in that way either. Okay, in this type of predictable classes, there is a lot of worksheets. And remember that students do not like writing exercises because normally we give them lots of worksheets so as to fix grammar and vocabulary. And the problem that they have when they have this great number of activities which are mainly related to writing and checking grammar and vocabulary, they are not able to apply that knowledge of the language in a real life situation. Why? Because content is dominant and we do not give the importance of how the students can use the knowledge they have of the language in a normal, spontaneous conversation. So what we need to do is to develop communication skills and see if they are able to use all the language they have learned. Okay, well, a great enemy is a fixed mindset. When students have a fixed mindset, they think that their abilities cannot improve, that effort is useless, and they think that change is not important. So they are satisfied with the way you are. Big mistake. When a student has a growth mindset, they believe that if they make effort, they will be able to improve their learning. If they have a growth mindset, they will recognize that the problems that they may have in the process of learning can be repaired. Why? Because he's a good observer of what or the way he's learning. On the other hand, a student who has a fixed mindset has a fear of failure. That's why he does not want to try and work openly in the classroom. When students recognize that mistakes are part of the process, they accept them, correct them, and they realize that they are useful because they help them learn. Sometimes, well, in the traditional model, mistakes are punished. Students prefer to remain silent because they are afraid of committing mistakes, and in this way they are not allowed to express their ideas freely because normally they are corrected. So let them commit mistakes because they can be repaired afterwards. Students usually have common errors that all of them can be treated together in the classroom. The students should be able to discover their own mistakes and try to repair them themselves with the help of their peers. Remember that they prefer to correct themselves while they are with their peers. And an explanation, for example, is better given if a peer may help his or her friend. And something that we should repeat in the classroom. The best teacher is your last mistake. They shouldn't forget that. So in this way, mistakes are welcome, mistakes are nice, because they help me grow. This is what the students need to feel when we speak about mistakes. Well, another great disadvantage is when classes are in the teaching mode and never in the learning mode. Classes are in the teaching mode when the teacher is central in the classroom. Teacher talk is dominant, and the students remain seated listening to the teacher. They do not like that. They get bored if they are quiet all the time. Remember that they need movement. That's why they are waiting for the break, because during the break they run, they try to do what they cannot do in the classroom, so that they use that energy during the break. And remember that we can use that energy in the classroom and make them creative, make them explore, make them invent, make them do lots of things in which they are directly involved in the process of learning. Isn't it great? When the students are in the, when the classes are in the learning mode, they are central in the classroom because they are active participants. Well, what are the habits of creative teachers? Well, they are creative outside teaching. So it happens in any profession. We have said that creativity is present in our daily lives, at home, at work, at school, everywhere. And for example, teachers may be fond of music, or they may have artistic abilities. So they will weave that music and that artistic ability into the process of teaching so that learning will be enhanced. Well, they don't let standards stop them. You know that standards tend to stop learning or to limit learning. Remember that we are part of a system that is still traditional. Remember that we are in a process of transformation in education. So, in spite of that, we are able to introduce changes. We are being innovative, although we are in a system which is still traditional. They teach the same concept in multiple ways. Linear teaching is not nice, it's not successful because students do not learn in the same way. So creative teachers introduce multisensory learning, for example. When multisensory learning is present in the classroom, the students have their senses alert so that they can use those which are more dominant. So the teacher teaches something auditorily, visually, kinesthetically. So in this way, the students can learn better because they are using their own potential, their own senses. Besides, when the teacher tends to explain something in different ways, participation of the students is crucial. It's not a lecture any longer. The students have introduced ideas, can discuss different ideas with their peers. This means that when the teacher is explaining, although the students will be paying attention, but they can participate because they can ask questions. In the traditional classroom, the teacher explains something and the students should remain silent because they need to understand what she's saying. But when the students have the possibility of asking questions while the explanation is being given, well, there, a new suggestion or a different perspective may be presented by any of the students. And this is welcome because it is a way of encouraging them to participate in the understanding of the new content. Teachers organize course material in a cognitively advantageous way. Remember that there are different ways of presenting material, and we know that students have different learning styles. And when teachers introduce new material, she shouldn't forget the three processes that are present in the process of learning. First of all is activation. The students need to activate new information with something already known. That is to say that they connect the new content with prior knowledge. More prior knowledge means better understanding of what they are learning. The second process is processing. The students process the information and they use cognitive operations. For example, they start comparing, relating, asking questions to understand what they are learning. And the final step or process is consolidation. when the students apply what they learn in a real life situation to see if it works and if they have understood. Normally, the third process is given little space in the classroom. Practice is the best part of learning because it gives them the opportunity to become active participants and experiment with the new content. That's why the three of them should be present in the classroom. And of course, a creative teacher is very careful to include them all. Well, they build a creative community. We cannot be creative on our own. We need to meet other teachers who are also creative and discuss what we are doing in the classroom, our teaching practices, our resources, our strategies, so that we share what we do in the classroom, and in this way we enrich one another. This is very important. I would say that it is crucial, but usually we haven't got enough time and we postpone this type of meetings. Well, I think that we shouldn't. Try to find the space to reflect on your own teaching together. Because, as I said, as I mentioned before, when we get together, we have the opportunity to see how we are teaching, and with the help of our peers, everybody will be improving their teaching. That's why reflection is so important. In this type of communities that we create, we also reflect on our teaching, and we encourage in the classroom, we encourage our students to learn, to reflect on their own learning. Well, creative teachers are good listeners, and when they are good listeners, they are good communicators. And what does it mean? This means that when they are good communicators, they listen with their ears, but they also use their eyes. Why? Because they become observers. And remember that students communicate meaning many times without expressing any word. So we should be very attentive and observe our students. We get a lot of information and we learn from our students every single class. So just a posture, just a facial expression may mean a lot. Body language is very powerful, and remember, do not pay attention to what the students say. Pay attention to the way they use their body language. For example, if you feel that all students are listening to you like this, well, you have to change your strategy immediately because you are noticing that they are getting bored, right? But they haven't said anything, or they start looking at the time. So, as I said before, body language is sometimes much more meaningful than words themselves. Well, they use questions effectively. You know that in the traditional method, students are used to answering. They are not used to questioning. And answers do not lead to knowledge. Questions lead to knowledge. And there are two types of questions that are normally asked in a classroom: close and open. Both of them are important, but normally we tend to ask closed questions. Closed questions are those which are shared by the whole class. For example, who discovered America, for example? Who discovered America? And everybody will share the same information. Or where is Egypt, for example? Everybody will say in Africa. But that's not a question that will indicate that the students are really creative. So instead of using that because it is supposed that students know that Egypt is in Africa. So the question that may be creative is, what would happen if Egypt were in America? So their creativity starts working. And they start producing amazing ideas. So this is one strategy that we can use in the classroom in order to generate creative ideas when we make effective questions. When we use open questions, the students have different answers. Each student has different questions, and the classroom is magic because the students reach one another because they are interested in what their peers are, the way their peers are creating when they are answering these type of open questions. Well, creative teachers embrace diversity. This means that they value differences. And something very important, in each classroom, each student is unique, and it has personal characteristics which defines the group to which he belongs. So this means that homogeneous classes do not exist. So we cannot have linear teaching. One size fits model is no longer, is outdated, cannot be present in our classes. When we have diversity in the classroom, we need to think of, when we plan a lesson, this is very important, we need to consider the type of students we are having in that particular group in which this plan will be used. Normally, we think of the content and we adapt the content to the students, but it is the other way around. I need to adapt the content to the needs of the students, and there creativity is working. They promote education transformation. Remember that we are agents of change, and the classroom is the place where this transformation is occurring. We shouldn't forget that. For example, how can we start promoting transformation in the classroom? Do not consider your textbook the tool in the classroom. It is just another resource. For a creative teacher, the textbook is not enough. We need to go beyond the text because the activities are usually repetitive. Because creativity, if you consult different textbooks, creativity is not present in every textbook. It depends on the author. Something very important you need to consider when you promote transformation is not to teach to the test. Normally, we tend to prepare students to take examinations, and there we are checking knowledge, we are checking content. But when you are creative, the focus is different. The focus is on the learning. The focus is how the students are learning. Are they applying the strategies we have been using? Are they able to apply the skills they have learned according to the context of situation? Are they able to understand content when they are used in a real life situation? This is what we need to check. Because if we concentrate on checking content, on checking grammar, that information is not applied in real life situation, and everything the students learn in the classroom should be applied in real life situation. Everything should be in contextualized settings because we are preparing them for an unpredictable world. That's why we need to feel ourselves as agents of change in the classroom. Well, how to foster creativity? Well, first of all, you need to think of creativity as a skill. And creative skills are not about creative ideas. It is about having the right skills to make them happen. That's completely different. We should embrace creativity as part of our teaching and learning. This means that they form a binomial and they are inseparable. And creativity must be always part of our toolbox. It cannot be absent, because you also become very active in the classroom. You cannot remain seated at your desk when you are creative. You are also moving all the time, monitoring your students, working actively in the classroom. Well, something very interesting to consider is Bloom's taxonomy. If we pay attention to the taxonomy, creating is the highest order of thinking. This means that after the students have remembered, understood, applied, analyzed, and evaluated material, they are prepared to produce something creative. There is a tendency in 21st century education to flip Bloom's taxonomy and start creating, so that the students have the opportunity to experiment, explore, investigate, so that they are directly involved in the process of learning. Curiosity, imagination, and surprise. Well, these are three elements always present in a creative classroom. Why? We have said that we encourage our students to unleash their imagination. And when they are highly motivated, they unleash their curiosity also. But how can we do that? How can we encourage our students to be curious? Well, one of the best strategies is to incorporate an element of surprise in the classroom. How? Well, for example, an intriguing question on the board, or just a word on the board, or a strange object on the desk. You leave it before starting your class during the break. So when the students see that intriguing question on the board or the strange object on the desk, they become curious and they want to know what they are about. So they are already curious when you start your class. Well, we foster creativity when we consider mistakes part of the process. They are welcome. Why? Because they are deductive. They teach. They are constructive. Why? Because they help students build up their knowledge. And they are creative because when they are trying to repair, when the students are trying to repair their mistakes, they use their divergent thinking. So they can solve or they can repair their mistakes in a creative way. This means that when mistakes are present in the classroom, it becomes a laboratory. It becomes a space in which the students are experimenting with contents. There is a lot of trial and error. That's why mistakes are expected. They are welcome. And when the classroom becomes a learning experience, teachers and students take up different roles. For example, the students are busy working together, sharing styles of learning, sharing information, sharing strategies, and the teacher is monitoring what the students are doing. And in this way, she is assessing them, because what is important today is to see how the students are learning. Content is the vehicle. What is important is to see how they are learning, because I need to be sure that the strategies I have taught them will be useful in the classroom and outside the classroom. Okay. Lectures, remember, are not nice. Nobody likes to listen to lectures for a long time. So they should be replaced by interactions. In a creative classroom, interactions are always present, and questions are the ones that are usually present, while the students are encouraged to make questions permanently. And the teacher is not the only one who is asking them, so that the students have the opportunity to exchange ideas with the teacher also, not only with their peers, so that everybody in a creative classroom is making questions. Well, the arts should be integrated when we are promoting creativity. The arts are usually used for consolidating material, so that we can use drama, we can use painting, dance, music, because remember that the arts generate positive emotions. The students enjoy when they are painting, when they are dancing, when they are singing. So they unleash their creativity through the arts. Isn't it great? Okay, multidisciplinary lessons are present in a creative classroom. And today, this is the tendency with the active methodologies that are being used. For example, the student can work with projects. They concentrate on a specific problem, and they start collecting information from the different subjects. In this way, subjects do not appear in separate boxes. In this way, the subjects are articulated better, and the students have better knowledge of one particular topic they have decided to include in the problem they are discussing. Today, this is the idea with these new methodologies, to consider one topic, and each subject will be involved, and teachers from the different subjects will be helping the students in this project, so that knowledge will be integral. Well, we need a flexible classroom layout. You know that orderly rows do not inspire students to participate actively. They are unproductive. So we have different seating arrangements that may promote creativity. For example, when students sit in a circle or in a horseshoe, or they sit in teams. Team building activities. Well, remember that students work cooperatively. They work together. And when they work together, they gain autonomy. Remember that learning is a social process. I cannot learn individually. I need others. So creativity promotes this type of learning. First, I need to work with my peers, and then I gain the autonomy that is required to start solving problems by myself. This is the idea. And then metacognitive thinking. Metacognitive thinking is very important, because the students become observers of critical observers of their own teaching, of their own learning, and they discover strengths and weaknesses. And in this way, they are able to make the necessary adjustments and improve their learning. Metacognition is a very powerful tool that is not as present as it should be in each classroom. So creativity then encourages this powerful tool and be part of our toolbox. Well, now, what are the activities that we can use in the classroom to include creativity? Well, creative play. You know that play is the natural way of learning. This means that when students are involved in play, they improve their cognitive, physical, mental, and social well-being. And this play should be taken into account not only with children, but with older students. Normally, play is restricted to lower levels. No, it should be present at every level, because when students of all ages play, they are creative. Remember that children can turn a cardboard box into a house, a ship, a car, and they can create a whole story around it. Children are very creative. The problem is that when they start school, creativity still hasn't got its place in the classroom, and content becomes more dominant. Well, remember, content a vehicle, but make creativity a crucial component, so as to help students unleash their creativity. Well, what are the games that we can use in the classroom to increase creativity? Well, there are different games, board games. Some of them can be adapted to the lesson plan. For example, bingo. Bingo is very common and very flexible. We can have hangman, Scrabble, telling time games, goose game, etc. There are many. Physical games, the classic hopscotch. In this case, instead of using numbers, you can revise vocabulary, or you can revise the alphabet. And so instead of numbers, you can use words the students already know, or instead of numbers, you have letters to revise the alphabet. Well, the scavenger hunt is a game students love because they enjoy playing search. Charades, it is a type of activity in which the students express meaning without words, and they have lots of fun. Activities, kinesthetic. Kinesthetic means that the students are directly involved in the activity, and they use their bodies. They use their bodies, for example, when they cook, when they grow plants, when they learn outside. And learning outside is a great experience, because learning should not take place only in the classroom. We should go beyond the boundaries of the classroom. For example, when we take students to a farm to discover what a farm is like, or to a factory, or to a specific place in their community in which there is an important climate problem, for example. TPR activities, total physical response activities. In this type of activities, the students respond physically to a linguistic input. For example, Simon says, is a very common activity that is normally used. Action stories, well, they are very useful because the teacher selects a tale the students are familiar with, and this is the instruction. When you listen to a word that is highlighted, you will represent it with your body language. For example, once upon a time, there was a rabbit. It was very sad. Suddenly, a bird appeared. So you see, you are checking vocabulary and understanding. Well, mime role plays here, the students perform a short scene without words, and then their peers have to decode what they have expressed by body language. Air drawing is another interesting activity in which the students respond physically. You may be revising vocabulary or the alphabet, and you mention a word or a letter, and the students draw it in the air. For example, the alphabet, I say A, so the students, okay, Z. So you are checking, understanding in a different way. So as you see, there is no need to give them lots and lots of worksheets. There are other ways of checking understanding, comprehension, when the students use their emotions and their bodies. Well, another important activity is when the students are involved in arts and crafts. The students are using their hands and their bodies to apply what they have learned. So it is a way of checking if they have understood. Another important component is drama. Well, I'm a drama teacher too, and I always advise teachers to use drama because one of the most important advantages of this important tool is that it helps the development of communication skills. Why? Because the students develop verbal and non-verbal language. They develop speaking and listening skills. So it is the resource that may provide this type of practice. When we use drama, music, dance, and movement are always included. Creative writing is present in the classroom when we tell the students to create a story or to write a poem. Creative drawing is very important, and it is not given the importance it has. According to scientific studies, it is more potential than writing and reading. Why? Because the students are processing information in 3 different ways: semantically, physically, and kinesthetically. And the students love drawing. So instead of, after reading a story, instead of giving them comprehension questions, tell them, well, now you will draw the moral of this story. And there, comprehension is shown clearly, or not. Okay. And of course, we have digital media. When we use digital media, you have the opportunity to have lots and lots of activities that can be used in the classroom too. Well, I have brought a few activities for you to see how it works. One of the first one is that creativity is really in action with imagination workout. And in this particular activity, you prepare handouts. You can find this on the net, and what the students have to do is to draw a picture out of the shapes present in each square. For example, I may take these 2 lines, these parallel lines, and I can think of a hamburger. So I finish the hamburger like this, and other students may think of something different. So we are creating. And as a follow-up activity, you can tell your students to select some pictures they have already created and tell a story using these pictures. Well, and the fantastic binomial for me is great, and probably you will be able to see how important it is in the classroom. The fantastic binomial is a creation that appears in the Grammar of Fantasy written by Gianni Rodari. Gianni Rodari was an Italian writer and journalist, and he was really concerned with developing creativity in children, and he wrote lots of books in which creativity is always present. Well, from this book, I have taken the fantastic binomial. In this way, in this type of activity, you combine 2 completely unrelated words, and you tell the students to create a short story around it. For example, in what way a carrot can be related to a book? The students are very creative, and when you encourage them to be creative, creativity starts flowing, and this is great. In what way a tree can be related to a window, or a cloud to a bee? So I think that if you give it a try, you will find lots of creative ideas. Well, another activity he proposes is salad of stories. The students are creative when they can combine stories they already know. So out of 3 or 4 stories they already know, for example, Red Riding Hood, Cinderella, Nemo, it may be also films, they create their own stories. Another one is upside down fairy tales. So stories or tales that are familiar to them, well, they decide to change them in different ways. For example, Little Red Riding Hood did not visit her grandma, or Cinderella does not marry the prince. And then they can provide or finish the whole story after these changes have been made. The same story, different ending. Okay, they read a new story. It's not something that is familiar to them. A different story, the one that appears in a textbook. Okay, so change the ending. You may change the characters. Or instead of the ending, change the beginning. You can work in the way you wish. And I have brought you this storyteller dice. Well, I have it in my hands. I normally use it with my students because it is very, very creative. I don't know if you can see me. Probably you can. It contains 6 dice. And according to the level, you can use 3 or the 6 of them. So the activity is very easy. The students roll the dice, and the pictures facing up will be used to tell a story. These stories are very creative. Why? Because they do not have time to think. Okay, this is what you've got. Okay, what can you tell me about it? In what way do you think that they are related and you can create a story? And they start talking. Well, for students at lower levels, you may create a special atmosphere in which they may be guided, right? Well, you give them some instructions, paying attention to this or to the other ones, according to the way the dice are rolled, and they start telling. Of course, that the story will be shorter in case of the students at lower levels. But the idea is to keep them creative. Well, concluding remarks. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Absolutely true. That's why I advise you to embrace creativity and encourage your students to explore, investigate, experiment with what they are doing. Because remember that creativity is not an option. It is essential. Thank you very much. This is the end of my presentation. I will stop sharing if I can. Or you can do it for me. And I'm very willing to listen to your questions. Yes?
Thanks a lot, Miss Patricia. It was fruitful, really. I enjoyed it a lot, and I got beneficials of many things that you said. And I hope,
Okay, thank you
inshallah, I
very
will
much.
apply it in my class. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm very glad to hear that.
Thank you so much.
I can now. I can.
Perfect. Okay, we will see if there are any questions. We will. في أي حد عنده سؤال? Any questions?